Hi, and welcome to today's edition of Perspective Africa. Today, we will be diving into a very timely and interesting conversation today. And we'll be diving into the Nigeria's digital economy. And with me today is Samuel, who is, one of the foremost digital economist in Nigeria. And, we're going to be unpacking this and just really try to get a good idea on where Nigeria stands as far as the digital economy is concerned. And, who gets to benefit? How, is it that we all as Nigerians can tap into this and really have a national benefit, from this? And Samuel, thank you for coming on this.
Thank you, Ayotunde, for having me to have this conversation.
Yes. So, Samuel, I just want to go in straight. When we speak about the Nigeria digital economy, what does this even mean for just the regular people? What does this mean for the nation of Nigeria? What does this mean? I'm sure a lot of people have this kind of distant idea of what digital economy is. But from your perspective, what does this mean?
Thank you, Ayotunde, for that question. I think it's a good time to be having these conversations around digital economy. When we talk about digital economy, I also will just jump right into it. We're simply talking about how technology now shapes every person's life, their work, and their trade. And also not stopping there, it moves on to becoming helping them create value every day. So it's not about some abstract policy term. It is that POS agent on the street in Yaba, the woman selling fabric, on Instagram and receiving payments through transfer. It is the Uber driver, the logistic rider, the online tutor, the fintech startup, the farmer that's accessing market prices through a mobile phone. In everyday life, the digital economy means data has now become a form of capital. Platforms have now become a marketplace, and connectivity has now become the infrastructure for you to gain opportunities. Back in the days, I would have to find my dad friend to give me connection to say, "Do you know my daddy?" Do you now have an opportunity? But connectivity has now become the infrastructure for connectivity, for opportunity. I mean, so the moment your phone becomes your bank or your office, shop, or your classroom, or even becomes your identity, which is something we're very particular about what we do here in our organization, you are already participating in that digital economy. For Nigeria, it's not just about the technology itself. It's about how do we make economic participation happen at scale. And I think I'll just stop there for a moment.
Yes, I think you're actually getting into where I'm trying to head at because I always wonder if every or let me say most Nigerians are part of this story. I know you mentioned quite like a number, but I get to think about it like you spoke about data and all of all those things. But for me, I'm thinking also about what happens to the people in the rural areas? What happens to the who gets to tap into this? The farmers, the all of all those things. How does this tie into because again, it's easy for us to talk about like when we say digital economy, we're thinking about like really high advanced, technological perspective. We're talking about like the fintech. But how does this also tie into like people in the rural areas, the market women, all those things? I believe, like you said, the data it also matters, right? All of those things. How does this because when we're speaking about the economy of Nigeria, we're looking from the advanced part of the society, also to ones in the rural area. So my point of view here is how does this how do we incorporate this? How does digital economy how is it able to tie all of this together?
It's a good question, and I think the digital economy already exists. So some of the things I've already mentioned, and I'm just going to reiterate and stick to them again. You're either doing your life, or you're working, or you're trading, or you are creating value using technology. You're in the digital economy, and we've seen a huge influx of mobile phones in Africa, in Nigeria. Everyone has a mobile phone in their hands, which means that everybody gets to participate in some sort of, whether it's banking, whether it's being on social media and selling something, or you have the ability to even gain access to websites or applications that enhance whatever it is you're doing as a person. For example, you've mentioned the farmer. And as I've given all these examples to showcase this digital economy, I still ended by saying, in the Nigerian case, we must stop looking at just the advancement of the technology and how advanced it is, and start to look at how do we make sure that the economic participation that everybody normally does is now digitalized at scale. So if we're going for farming, how do we make Nigeria use more technology in farming? If we're doing health, how do we make Nigeria do that more, at scale? And I think if we start to see many of these economic participation online, there could be a transparency that could transform Africa. But I don't want to talk about that yet. Let's still stick to the discussion around, let's get more people to be on board to scale, and then we can now talk about how that transparency can transform many of the corruptions and things we're seeing.
Yes. Do you so now if you're gonna rate the digitalization of our economy now, and I'm talking about like on all sides, the finance, the health, like what would you say we are at now?
As someone that loves data, when you ask me the word rating, I start to see a lot of dashboard in my head. Um, but let me use 100%. I think that where Nigeria is at the moment, I'll give them a 40, because I think we're one of the most advanced in the whole African continent. So I'm using that metrics as a method. But if I was using it from a global standard, maybe I might give Nigeria like a 10. But based on the settings, I like to put us in the place where we are, which is Africa, and give us 40%. We're doing enough.
Got it. So and the reason why I asked this is I remember that my wife went to Nigeria, I believe, was it last December? And what one of the complaints was that, I think it was about like banking and the fact that they had to like a lot of things they still have to like do some paper fillings and all of all those things. Meanwhile, it is super easy to just go online and open your bank account without having to go in person if you have to do any corrections, all of all those things, and I in my head I thought about it like, what did it what how is this a governmental thing or private organizations not prioritizing the digitalization of of their industries? Is this that we do not see importance of this yet, or we're just growing at the point that we are able to. Again, I'm just trying to see where are we at in this. Where is our growth? Where's our growth at in all of these industries that were mentioned in the banking, all of all those things. Like, is it where is the priority at when it comes to digitalization of our economy? And probably if you also want to, talk about like on a governmental level as well, like where are we? I remember I watched one of your shows when you were talking about not there was something about you saying maybe having a separate ministry for it. I'm not sure if I'm quoting you right or something like that. I don't want to misquote you. I take time to watch your things, and I find it very brilliant because I'm wondering, like, is it that we're not let me not get ahead of myself. Let me let you take this. Yes.
I think it's a interesting. You're hitting something on the head there. So many times we talk about digital economy, it can sound like a policy term because it's economy. And back in the days, the people that used to manage economy are the government, nobody else. They don't even born you well to be part of managing the economy of your country. It's like your father and mother's house in Nigeria. Your daddy and mommy cannot let you participate in the financial value of the house until you get to a particular threshold. The digital economy is always very promising, but I think from a radical thinking, which is we definitely have public and private, and both of them are supposed to be regulators and the implementators of what we call now technology. Um, but I believe that they should not see technology as a industry that the governments and private companies are in a race to who can regulate or implement it the fastest. It should more be like there should be an extra layer in the country that there's public, private, and then there's tech. Why? Because the public and the private share data. So private organizations do data, maybe using private platforms, applications, softwares in their organization. The government, on the other side, sort of regulates the influx of that technology into your location. They regulate the telecommunication where you use that technology on. They also provide the infrastructure that you will use to run that technology. So both of them, two of them can stop or stifle the use of technology in a location. So that's why you can see Starlink can come into Nigeria and everybody will buy their own internet. Or, so you see that technology is a standalone. Or I can create my own agent and it's working for me in an organization that I'm doing in Nigeria. And you're still paying me salary, but it's an agent that is doing it, but you don't know, even though you are my elder. So the technology is outside of the public and private, which means that we need to look at it from a different perspective. But because as Nigerians, we're always adopting, we don't believe that it's possible for us to take this technology and stem it into something from Africa. We have one of the most interesting opportunities in the entire time of our living, in the last 400 years of our slavery and our coming out of slavery to running our own country by ourselves. This is the only time in Africa that the opportunity has come up for us to own something and use it to transform the way that we do our own economy. And we cannot look at that as a public or private thing anymore. We must look at it as it's tech. Tech has now become the top layer of our economy, which means that private people are functioning in the economy, the public are functioning in the economy, but tech is also doing its own thing. So how would it work? Private people will be about the people, the community. Public will be about the environment, making sure that we have a conducive environment and infrastructure. And then the tech will be about the analysis. It will be about prediction. It will be about taking data from the public and private and giving real information to get Africans to make real decisions. Because why? If I trust the public, there's already a bias. If I trust the public and private, there's already a bias. But with technology, most people are clicking more buttons than they listen to their data economy. Most people are clicking more buttons than they listen to their policy in their country. So how do we infuse these public and private thinking mindsets into technology in a way that gets people to then see more positively about their nation? It will help them with the healing. There's so much we can use technology to do. Like I said, the opportunity is massive. As I started this conversation saying, is how do we get participation at scale that can foster the new economy? This is the posture that I'm taking. Why I'm back to the continental.
Yeah. So I like that. You mentioned the new economy, and one of the things that I started to see is that you see the traditional known economy that we're used to, we can see it slowly shifting away, if you know, and we can see, like you said, like a new form of economy. Like I would not say even slowly coming in, but aggressively, coming in. And I'm saying, from the world perspective, the world is moving on. We see the emergence of AI and how, it's literally used in several parts of the nation, security, economy, and it's getting, really. And I wonder, is this something, if I get you correctly, this is something that needs to have its own kind of, speaking about, like, you mentioned, like, tech being a separate layer. What you're saying is it should have its own separate, I don't know if the word is ministry, or separate, just, have its own separate space that the government can, tap into and use. And if you say that, what does the government have to do in this time, as far as this is concerned? Does it pose, does it have a negative, or what are the effects of this? Because again, I'm looking at this like, first, we need to have our own data, right? We need to be able to this, have a sovereign ownership of our own data. Yet again, but if I'm getting it correctly, when it comes to that, I also don't know if the government, would have to have sole control of that, or like you said, or it's going to be it will be dispersed around private, government or individual, actually, having their own ownership and making, good use of it, of course. I'm just thinking that through. What do you think about this?
Good question. Again, I think we're on the journey here where we're starting to look at what is the digital economy, and then sort of where is it at, right? So I'm loving the W questions, and now you've just jumped me away from the five W's. What we're going to have. I'm not asking why or the who and the what, but I know that the who is also there because we're asking on governments and we're asking on private, but we're now on how people look at it. What would it look like? Um, Technology has been one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen. Um, it's it's sort of like Jesus Christ, right? So you need to have Christianity as a layer in your life to be able to access. There are many things like prophecy or being able to see your destiny or some whatever it is that from that layer, right? But you don't know the government of heaven. there's a structure, right? And they will tell you that the only way to access that structure is if you pray and you open your Bible, right? And then you are in, you're able to access. Technology is interesting because the government or the privates, even if they say, oh, we're trying to regulate or we're trying to implement, what eventually happens is that the technology eventually has its own mind. Let me backtrack a little bit. If you look at technology companies that already exist, many of them are already using artificial intelligence, computers talking to itself. We've moved, okay, let me say it this way, we've moved from the industrialization 1.0, where we were just creating machines to produce buttons and different things like needed, to machines that were making cars, and then cars were on the street. So you see, the technology is already doing so. They were going to 3.0, then goes to 3.0 industrialization. Now the cars and the machines that were made, we're now moving things. We now have things like logistics, moving things with ships. So we had a huge industrialization happening. China won that battle, we got to them. Now we're in a place of industry 4.0 moving to 5.0. And in this, it's not human beings operating machines anymore. In this industrialization 4.0 moving to 5.0, the machines are supposed to be running themselves. They talk to themselves. Ubiquitous computing. We're seeing that in America, self-driving cars connected to the road. You don't need regulation for that. The regulator will do its regulation, infuse it into this intelligence system. Your car will drive itself. Now, in the economy of that, the implementation will be that private companies implement a software, governments now regulate the software, something. Then the people have to now learn it over time. It's not the way it is now. Now you enter the car, you don't have to learn anything. Just enter the car. The car and the road will be talking. Public and private do not even do anything than do their work wherever they're doing it. The technology is working on its own. You see now, if I take such a thing as just this is just driving, and I now want to put it into economy. In economy, there's only five sectors that make the economy. Land, and then I used to say this that many people don't know what economy is. There's land, there's labor, there's capital, there's enterprise, there's education. Now imagine that I was going to digitalize all these sectors. Everything else will fall inside of it. For example, if I digitalize land, I've already done that example of the road now, where cars and the street lights and everything are talking together. I can do land law based on the fact that your land is now digitalized. You can buy it from a digital platform, and you can even build from it from a digital platform. So if you're a diaspora and wanted to buy land in Nigeria now, if we digitalize our land, you can click the land, build something on it, and still rent it from a physical digital platform, and you're still in the diaspora. You see, I told you about that participation, but we've not developed it. I'm just only on land alone. I've not gone to labor. Let's now talk about Fiverr. Nigerians have not even started to build their own digital platform. And that's another problem we should be talking about, the infrastructure of not just being a consumer, but using the thing to create value for yourself, to build those type of platform. Recently, we saw Spotify made 60 billion from entertainment in Nigeria. I thought to myself, if Spotify made 60 billion, no, they said the artists they made 60 billion on Spotify. I said if the artists made 60 billion on Spotify, how much is Spotify make? Because then it didn't come to us. He went to them as well. We only got 60 billion. How much did you get? So you see now that we're not even using it for our own. I just spoke about labor. It's a lot about digitalizing that. We've not gone to capital, which is finance. We're saying fintech. We've not seen cap, which is capital tech, where you're actually seeing VCs running their dispersal of money using a digital platform. Well, it's still coming. It's going to come and it's going to exist. It's not going to. I'm not going to education. I'm not going to enterprising. So when you think of the tech infrastructure, you will look at it that the tech will eventually talk to itself. How do you build intelligent systems that will allow that to flow without allowing your public policy interference that is not even consistent, that will always end after 4 years? The technology will be consistent. If you come to this Riverside platform next time and click the button, it will take the same thing. You can't come tomorrow and they say Riverside now change the policy that for you to click, you have to submit a document and then they'll submit. Oh God, you said you'll be like, what is all this? I'm not. Let me find another application. You see where things has changed. So we must look at it from that perspective. It's a mind shift. And I'm still saying it that we as Africans, this is an opportunity to shape a world. Because the Western world are confused about how they were going so fast with the technology, but they need to tell their people on how to use it for value creation. They have to always be nudging them to some interesting ways. We have the ability to use that to develop the foundation of our economic participation.
And that's the thing. I think I had this conversation with uh, an individual from the United Kingdom. Was it I think yesterday or day before, and it was the conversation was really about that how we're able to, with the emergence of the artificial intelligence, how we're able to use that to speed up, you know, the gap that we have missed. You spoke about, like, Fiverr, and, just, in relation to our dependence on these foreign platforms, when we can start to build something of our own and also reap the benefit of it. And if so does this is this that a collective thing where we all need to start to think about this? I'm just trying to that is this something that we all should start to think about? Is that's not, because again, it's easy to say, oh, is this person's or responsibility to make, is this for us to think about? The world is moving fast, and we as a people also need to move with it and understand that, you mentioned, you just made a whole talk about land, and it's like, wow, this is something that people can really tap into and make life easy, and also benefit from it. From, if somebody's in diaspora and they're able to get the land, do all these things just by staying there, they don't have to move an inch, just where they are, make all those things, knowing that all these things are happening right as they're ordering for it. So it's like, I'm thinking, this is not just a government thing. This is all of us having to, like, understand that we need to understand that the economy that we know before has changed. When we're talking about, like it's not make a policy the policy would, again, it's like you said, it's always inconsistent. There's always a change, but what cannot change is the technology, and how do we benefit? How do young youth and adults benefit from this? And it is something that really, I've always been thinking about, like, if there's a time when we can catch up with the rest of the world, it's now. If there's a time when we can actually stand toe to toe, because again, talking about the talents that we have from Nigeria, and which is something that I was also gonna talk about, like, when we're speaking about, it's a country of 200 and something million people, and we know the talents that we breed, as far as even on this tech part, and on the digital economy, or on the digital just space. Are we more focused on working for foreign firms that we're not concerned about building something internally? Is that the case? Or am I misjudging our people.
Yeah, I, I'm gonna answer the two things you said for me because there's two questions in that statement. I think it's exciting to be doing this conversation, and I think that there's a move of awareness. So people like myself that come back to the continent, we're shaping those kind of discussions, and I'm glad that we're having these kind of discussions from diasporas to local body. We're still the same. But let me answer it like this: one first, or before we get to detail, um, it has to definitely be a collective. Let me say that this way, right? Because many of us don't have the understanding. We have a lot of knowledge, but we don't convert our knowledge to understanding how it works for us, right? And this will bring me to talent now. To bring me back to talent. Intelligence as a thing has 15 to 20 definitions. So let me explain why I'm saying that. So there's a battle in the world for what intelligence is. Because it's either how intelligence is created is that one person can come and say, I'm David, the king of Israel, anointed. What I say is what will happen, right? That's one person. Now, when he says it, because of his position and where he is, the collective must join him no matter what he said. Now, how he used to do this is that he will contact or work with the oracle, who is Samuel, and say, Samuel, what did the high intelligence say about what we need to do here? Samuel will say, whoa, I just heard that we must move and overtake, something like that, right? Intelligence number one. Second intelligence is the human being that's saying it and the position he has. And then the third intelligence now is that everybody now accepted it. So the more everybody's accepting it consistently, eventually we can say water is now called water. Then science can now say it's H2O. You see those levels? Okay. God said this is water. Water will cover the face of the earth. High intelligence. Then human beings, they go to university and say, we're going to call it hydrogen and oxygen H2O. Everybody now accepts that H2O. It now becomes chemistry. You see? Now, what we're having with artificial intelligence is that it can cover that H2O, then the high level intelligence, it can form it itself because the intelligence of even the spiritual is a collective. So if everybody accepts, spiritual accepts. For example, we don't want God to be ruling us anymore. We want politics. We want a king. Their collective intelligence made that change to happen in the dynamics of, okay, I'm coming somewhere with this. So that means for Africa, when I say we have an opportunity to take something and use it, this is an opportunity to take all our data that has never been intelligence before. There's nothing in Africa that I can say now that we all have agreed there is an intelligence. Is it Yoruba language? Which one have we agreed? Or is it entertainment? Or the Afrobeat? Did we agree that that is an intelligence? That is the beginning of our problem. We must come to a place where we all collectively agree. And then when we collectively agree, the intelligence will become the way we build this thing, this technology layer on our economy. And participation will happen freely. Because, like I said to you, when the intelligence came from the spiritual, comes to Oracle, and David says it, nobody will fight again. Everybody will just say, yes, sir. So we need that in Africa. That's one of the reasons people like us, diasporans, need to come back. Now, moving forward to that is that we now have two layers of intelligence. We have those that are in the diaspora that are Africans that carried the problem to the Western world. And so as they start to see innovation, they start to have different thinking of my people can do it like this. Intelligence number one, fantastic. Intelligence number two is I'm living in Africa. I'm seeing the problem. I'm coming up with ways that I can solve it locally. For example, I don't have house rent. I go to church to beg for it. Please, I can't pay my rent. Help me. Church will say, okay, no problem. That is the structure existing in Nigeria. If you tell the diaspora this on the diaspora, that's rubbish. Here in the UK, in the US, we work hard. We pay our hour, we pay our monthly fee. Their reality, even though they know that they came from here, is different. But these two people are suffering the same problem. One is just thinking it's abroad. One is thinking I'm in Nigeria. The intelligence is separated because the diaspora is joining the collective intelligence of the Western world. In its own country, the collective intelligence is not happening. It's very individual. Everybody, all man for himself. I gotta eat. I gotta survive. And so there's a disparity there. So when we come into talents, because remember, there's even a parable about the talent. I gave you five, I gave you three, I gave you one. Aha. The diaspora now is the person that probably has one. They only gave him one. The ones in Nigeria, they're the ones with three and five. The one now thinks, I'm just here to do my thing. The one with three and five, they are not even like the way the Bible describes it, where they went and sowed the three and got three back. They are looking for how they can take their three and give it to that one that has one in the diaspora and join them there, thinking that the return on investment is the dollar. It will now be that there are three talents return to six talent. I mean, so when they think of talent development, they think about it for that person that has one instead of thinking about it for them that have six. So how am I? I'm saying this way, but to speak it into plain English, Nigeria is producing some of the best world class talent locally and diaspora. Think of someone like me. Think of yourself, Ayotunde. Smart men with exciting prospects, world class people. You hear them, they're speaking English. You tell them to speak Yoruba, they'll speak Yoruba classic. You tell them to speak, so we're going to tell them to speak French, you speak classic. Tell them to do tech. You operate machines in ways that you have not seen. There are some white people that don't even know how to operate Facebook. It's not a yeah. So we are producing world class talent here, high level. On one hand, the remote work of foreign firms bring in capital into our country, effective flows, we transfer skills to us because maybe they are more advanced. We're even exposed to the things that are global. On the other hand, it weakens the local ecosystem. Our capacity, um, if our best engineers and analysts or our product leaders are not building indigenous solution. Remember, I mentioned this before. The real goal here, and I'll just stop you because there's no answer. I'm only giving the understanding. I think we all should collectively solve it. I think the real goal here should not be to let's stop the export of these talents. But the goal will be how do we, or the goal should be that we should build an ecosystem where global talent earning is recycled into local innovation, into building ventures locally, and even infrastructure. So talent exports must become ecosystem investment. So if I export you to go and do something, the return on investment must be that you come back into the ecosystem of something. So if you work in data as a data scientist for an international company, can you return the investment into data science for health and landed property in Nigeria based on this job you did there? If you did a job in the NHS or the American health system doing data science for their data to understand health insurance, let's give it as an example, is a thing. You can come and help us to design health insurance differently in Nigeria because health insurance in Nigeria is unique. We can shape it in a way where health insurance prices are different in different states. Because if I'm in Lagos, I'm going to more accidents than if I'm in Delta. But that needs data. Yeah, we can't just say it. But if there was data now to showcase that, insurance prices would be different based on where you live. Yeah. But it's because I've worked on the project doing that. I understand this. But you see now where a global talent will work somewhere. We will not see how to connect that back to the local, and it requires a collective thinking. Our government, our private, and the individuals themselves must come to a place where our mindset shifts to say, okay, this looks like an opportunity to re- to re- to get it back. I want to use it, get it back, because we're seeing even that oppression is happening now, but we could only have seen that because we have where the United Nations is agreeing now that the slavery was one of the greatest crimes. If we didn't have internet, maybe they would not talk about that for the next 1,000 years.
I don't want to hold you too much. So I see that you have a company, tech for Good Africa. If so,
That's right. Yeah.
what is I want you to talk about that for a couple minutes.
Amazing. So I run an ecosystem. I'm glad that we're coming from that place, ecosystem. I run an ecosystem. So in my ecosystem, there's at the moment reorganization. Then I'll add what I do as a person on my daily job as well in Nigeria. So we have the Echo platform, and with the Echo platform, the ECO stands for environment, community, and organization. So if I take Nigeria, what we do is collect the data of the environment, the community, and the organization of Nigeria. We continue to collect that data, whether it's environment, or land, flood, infrastructure, community, men, women, health, finance, all of that, or organization, governance, indigenous, local companies, foreign companies, just to understand the dynamics of the location. And how we do that is through the Echo ID. So we try to verify the human being's activity in their Echo and give them alternative credit system using that. Now, building such a solution in Africa and trying to reinvent identity as a thing, because if you look in the Western world, like Americans with social security number is what operates their system. Even for you to get a car, to be in a driving car, to be in a particular city, even is your SI number now, tell you whether you can make it or break it. If you go to England, NIN number is the same thing. But if you come to Africa, there's 55 of them. Problem, I'll be okay. So I have to tackle the real issue. Say, if we're going to integrate the Africa, you have to have one identity that covers everything, but not an identity that shows how you extract from me. Because the Western people are thieves. I didn't say it though. Delete it. They've just learned extractive economy. Is when they were doing it, that they would go to countries that king will send them, go and collect this thing. So even when they were building their system, it's extractive. The credit system of America is extractive. You get the job, we take this percentage, you shape it this way. Very extractive. But we are not extractive people. We have plenty resources. We give. Press down, shake it together, running over. So we have to create our identity from the value that we create from the things we have. Can we get our young people to do more positive things with their echo? So we started with the ID. But doing the ID, we discovered that getting young people to build technology was hard. So the Echo ID works in a way as SSO will work. So if you are building a new website, you can use the Echo ID as a login. And whatever that African person does with your platform would contribute back to their Echo dashboard that they have personally. So you're helping them shape their data on your platform, but shape it for themselves as well. So you can even evaluate it. Say, I'll give you this amount of points for what you do on my platform. But we needed developers to use this solution for developing many applications across Africa and even see possibilities of doing that. But we didn't see young Africans developing solutions for their local problem. They weren't building solutions that would solve their local people's, their village people problem. They don't believe that their village people is doing juju to kill them. Instead of they should think about how to create solution for them. That the people will even leave the juju for the tech. They say this tech, you better pass this juju. They did not think of it like that. So we're in a sort of dilemma about it, Holy Spirit. We're in a sort of dilemma about the matter. So we started Tech for Good for that problem to say, as as a community, how do we bring how do we bring young people together to to build this solution? And with Tech for Good Africa, what we did was have a formula because every time we see things in Nigeria or across Africa, there's no structure. It's either we adopt, and then when we adopt, we're trying to understand their structure of the code. We're trying to say, how does this work for us? So we don't build our own structure from here there. So I said, okay, since Einstein is the person that created E equals MC squared, which is what gives us electricity, capacity for electricity and things like that, where others are built on top of it, we created our own E equals MPQ, which is energy and education equals to media, data, design, and digitalization. When we do this, we take it for a second. In every economy, there's a little sector of that economy. If you take the E equals MDQ for health, you as a young person, you'll be able to see your talents on, is it education or the energy for health? Or is it media, data, design, or digitalization I'm doing for health? By the time you are already in Tech for Good Africa, understanding that, you understand how to do it for your echo. Because by the time you see data for health, you will know how to do data for health in the environment of Lagos. We're drilling it down now. We're helping them to see it clearly. And the third part of it is in this ecosystem, we run a network for impact because my goal is tech and impact. Don't just do the tech for the money, because yes, tech can bring a lot of value, but there's an ethics that the whole world is talking about when we talk about tech, which means that we can make tech do positive things. So, how do we do that with impact? So, our third part of the whole ecosystem is the academy, where we get leaders that are already in the industry to understand this E equals mv group and see how to create working papers, working group solutions around this for their sectors. That young people, when they learn the talent of data analysts or data scientists, they can see how that plugs in to the brewery in Nigeria, or plugs to the government in Nigeria, or plugs to engineering in Nigeria, right? Because the leaders now understand the technology. They can get young people to know how to participate in it. Our network is called the PALS Network, which is partners, ambassadors, and leaders for sustainability. So across our ecosystem, the PALS function in all of them. So if you're an organization, you're coming in as a partner, and you as an individual, you're working as an ambassador and leader to foster more technology for good while also creating an identity that builds an alternative credit system for our economic participation. If I'm not doing this ecosystem, I'm working as an economist that I work in impact investing. It's a new way of investing. How do we now invest and your investment shows impact? We're seeing a lot of philanthropists, funders begin to say, look, I don't want to be giving money and see ROI. I have more money. It's too much money. And this started with Bill Gates. He give away all his money before he dies. So many things has changed in the dynamics of how we look at money. So many of us even need to change our mindset on money. And because that mindset is changing about money, impact investing is becoming a thing. I want to invest and see that. You told me that 5,000 people's life changed. Investors are saying that now. I want to see that invest and trees be planted. Investors are saying that now. It's an ESG concept. So because that is changing, with technology, Africa is posed to shape a future that can transform even the world economy. We just don't know that it's us that carry it. Remember, I told you now that China won in the industrialization 3.0 because of industrializing, using things in mass. Industrialization 4.0 moving into 5.0, where we as Africans were more ethical, more social, more integrated. Can we shape an economy from here that the Western world will see and be like, okay, there's a repentance. There's two types of repentance. There's one that God caught you. When God calls you, you'll be like, oh, Father, have mercy. There's the second type of repentance that the world and calls you and say, how far now? You know this thing you have been doing is too much. Then you come down, then you now you decide to repent. I believe that we can show the Western world, instead of pointing fingers to them, say you put us in slavery, you did this to us, that we can transform them to say, wow, from their adversity, from the resilience, something came out that was technology and impact that shapes the way we live in this world, that protects the earth, at the same time protects the earth's resources, but at the same time the earth is still functioning effectively for the future. The goal here is sustainability. How do I take oil from the ground and make sure that 100 years later, young people still came and they could still find that oil and take it away that they can use it, but it didn't pollute, destroy the earth, it didn't destroy people's lives, but it shaped a solution that kept people thriving. I tell everybody, the economists, there's infinite resources for everybody, but there's no infinite greed. You cannot have all of it. So we need to shape our mindset. And if we don't shape it now, the technology will think of us like that. It would start to think that it has to be favorable to Elon Musk and favorable to Ayotunde and Samuel, which is not supposed to be the case. Aha. So this is why we can shape it for the world. I think I'll stop. I think I
No,
explained it.
I think that was brilliantly said. Okay, so I would say I have like two more thoughts or questions rather that I want to, and one is that in all of this, I'm thinking that there should be a certain system that allows for the all of these ideas to prosper, right? And I'm talking about like say like the infrastructures, and also the reorientation of the people. It's two things there, because I know most Nigerians work in informal jobs, and meaning that more than half of Nigerians are not fully included digitally, and they're not. I just wonder that does this pose a challenge to the growth and the development of just of the tech growth or the digital growth that we're supposed to be seeing? Because I'm thinking about like the internet, the energy, and all these things. I believe that young. I'm going to tell you the brilliancy of this generation. It's out of bounds, but they cannot. I don't know how they're able to function or reach the full potential if the things that they need are not readily available. I just want to get what you think about this.
It's a big issue. I'm not going to look at it and be like, no. We could have been on this call now and really, and that's normal. That's no. Even the US, 150 years to build infrastructure. It's one of our. It must be the most single biggest constraint that we have right now. Whether it's running a business in Nigeria, you have to. If you are running a business in Nigeria, you have to also be running your own mini power company, and that's not. If you buy your own generator, you build it solar, you might have to wait.
That's a lot
Not
because
for
it
anyone.
ties into the capital that you're
Oh,
putting into
yes,
the yeah.
fantastic. So if a startup to be investing in their products, in their talents, in their customer growth, they spend a large part of their operating costs in energy resilience to make sure that they are able to access. So, um, but even broadband, um, the access is improving. I can talk to you now. We have broadband, but it's not evenly. Urban Lagos or Abuja are not the same as a peri-urban or rural community. But thanks to Starlink as well, we see that there's no excuse for sure. It will eventually happen. This type of infrastructure, you cannot, we can't escape it. That's why I said that tech is not an industry, it's an infrastructure. You, no matter how much you don't want to fix that road, you still fix the road. Lekki Ekpe Road that they've been doing, now it's fixed. I'm getting to work in literally 10 to 2 minutes. You fix that infrastructure by force. It's nothing, you can't escape it. So power, broadband, cloud infrastructure, and let me add logistics. They are not separate from each other in the digital economy. They are the foundations of it. So you cannot run away from that infrastructure. Um, so definitely digital growth cannot scale sustainably with weak physical infrastructure, but it's inevitable.
Yes.
That's what I want to say about that. Nigerians and Africans come out of a place of complaining to seeing opportunities. Because when you see opportunity, it will drive you to go and ask for what you need for the opportunity. It's a concept I always teach to people with Africa. I say you must always look for where to sow. Because when you take a seed and throwing it, you can throw it on some will fall on rocky ground, some will fall on the fertile ground. But what you did there was opportunity. So you make sure that your seed, your speech, your skills was matching to the opportunity that was God's will and the people's will. That's essence of will. I always teach this to the young people to say. But you see now that when they say the soul, if your skill is not matching to an opportunity that of something that is inevitable, you will just remain in complaining and not see the the sowing that you should be sowing, the skill you should be learning, the speech you should be saying. There are some things there's a way you should say, but because of how society takes it away, you have not matched your opportunity, and you will miss the opportunity of that will. So you say, "Oh, infrastructure is my problem. That's why I'm not." You do not match the skill that because that infrastructure is inevitable. It is inevitable. We can't escape doing a road in a place. It's the same way you cannot escape internet will be there. They're coming for you. It may not be your turn yet, but will reach you. That is my. I don't want to stay in that place and be joining because they can. Nigerians can
It,
come.
it makes sense. So this is
Yeah,
one thing that I discuss with, I have a lot of discussions on politics and all kind of perspectives. And one of the things I have a book that I wrote, Awakening the Giant, and one of the things that I wrote there is about the fact that we cannot stay we cannot keep in that state of constant complaining. And I know I try to make people understand that at this point, it's all hands on deck. We need to see past. There are some things that we need to see past. There are some things that we have to. It's we cannot change the reality of what we are now, but we can also by our own active participation we can change the future that we want to see. And it is for me, I don't stay in where people are complaining about stuff or about Nigeria. Once I hear that you want to complain, I'm sorry. And it's not me being insensitive. It's just me, trying to let us know that what's the solution. Let's tell me what it is. Tell me what I have to do. And I'm typically like that. If you want to just tell me do A B C, I'm getting to D, and that's what I want to do.
what
Exactly. So lastly, what would you say if you have the ears of policymakers or Nigerians in general, or the youths, what would be your comments to them, your advice, it's your suggestion to them that at this time?
where is our data? That would be my question. The second question would be: do we have an economic justice issue? And these two questions, my own posture would be, we need to make data our backbone of our economy. Um, I believe when transaction histories and behavioral data are responsibly structured, they can unlock um, credit, insurance, business growth for millions in the informal economy. On the bigger economic questions, I strongly believe the traditional methods alone are no longer enough for Africa. GDP is useful, but it does not fully capture our reality as Africans. A lot of value creation in Africa happens informally, socially, and digitally in ways that the legacy economy model that we have as well often misses it. So if I had the ears of the government and the people, I'll speak to two of them differently. I'll say to government, change your focus to infrastructure and build the infrastructure. Take a pause on the policy. I would say to the individuals, let's come together, shape our data in a way that creates value policies or that makes people become policy entrepreneurs. Yeah, and this is interesting. It's actually a thing. Um, so that we can then shape this technology world. I think to wrap it up is if we can shape our data, let me not use the word shape. If we can design our data in a way that we can digitalize all our sectors, we will create a medium that makes energy and education sustainable. Because those two things are the things we just need to sustain on earth. How people are getting educated all the time and how energy they are consuming. When we talk about energy now, some people think energy is just electricity. Your physical body, you are an energy. I also need to know where you're tapping your energy from. And so if we look at it from this perspective, it will help us shape orientation, it will help us shape the infrastructure, it will help us build the Africa that can shape the rest of the world. I think this is what I'll leave with them. They can decipher it themselves.
Yes, thank you so much, Samuel, for joining in. Thank you for sharing, valuable insights, about the Nigeria digital economy. We really appreciate you for coming, and it's been a very interesting conversation. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, also for tuning in. Sorry, let me not cut you. Let me let you give your thoughts. Your last.
My thoughts, I have no more. I just want to say thank you. Today, thank you for having me on the show and just sharing more of this information. I think people like myself, we need to be more amplified, and especially the diasporans. I know that they're coming together in a unique way. How do we shape a bridge that can develop Africa, also show the Western world that we have intelligence here that they need, and I believe that that's going to happen as we continue to do many of these things and as we continue to shape opportunity for our people. So well done out today, and hope to meet you more.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It's me, your host, Ayotunde Adeyanju. Thank you, and God bless.